Welcome to your daily dose of sci-fi adventures. New stories dropped every single day. Smash that subscribe button and ring the to help us reach 1,000 subscribers and unlock even more epic cosmic tales. The pale blue dot spun serenely in the blackness, its soft halo of atmosphere glowing against the void. From the Pacific Lunar Observatory's viewing deck, the Earth rose above the lunar horizon like an unblemished pearl. Dr. Leela Hammond pressed her gloved fingertips against the cool glass of the observation dome, inhaling the recycled air with a sense of profound gratitude. 2 centuries had passed since humanity's first cautious step beyond Sol's cradle. Yet every day she still marveled at the fragile beauty of home. Below her feet, the lab thrummed with activity. Holographic starcharts shimmered over a central console, projecting 12,000 light-years of surveyed space. Teams in white and blue tunics guided drones through the asteroid belt for mineral mapping, monitored solar weather for tuple anomalies, and sifted through distant radio chatter for hints of civilization. It was peaceful, work predictable, routine, unhurried, exactly as the UN Treaty on Extraterrestrial Non-Interference intended. Leela toggled a control pad, expanding the sector labeled Neutral Zone Keshari, Terranian Frontier. Soft golden hues signaled the flickering boundary where the Keshari Collective's patrols met. Terranian pickets. Beyond that, war gleamed like distant bonfires, pulse torpedoes streaking, laser swarms weaving in 3-dimensional ballets, starships rupturing in violet supernovae. She had watched it daily for years, comforting herself with the centuries-old policy: Earth would stay out of their carnage unless directly threatened. Dr. Hammond called Ensign Velez from across the command deck. The sector reports are all green. No rogue objects, no distress calls, barring cosmic background noise. It's quieter than a moonless night. Leela offered a wan smile. Good. Let's keep it that way. She keyed her comlink. Pacific control to all observation stations. Confirm green across subsystems. If anything unusual pops up, even static, flag it immediately. A chorus of acknowledgments rippled through her earpiece. Moments later, her second-in-command, Lieutenant May, turned from her console, fingers dancing across a virtual keyboard. Solar flare index climbing, she warned. Coronal mass ejection inbound. Might cause signal distortions in the next 18 hours. I'll recalibrate filters accordingly. Thank you, Lieutenant. Leela tapped the edge of her glass viewport. Far beneath the observatory, Earth's radio networks would hum with chatter as geomagnetic currents played across the ionosphere. Satellites would twitch in response, and amateur astronomers on every continent would marvel at rare auroral arches. It was a reminder that Earth itself was a system of systems, dynamic, unpredictable, alive. Yet on the far side of the galaxy, policies and treaties meant little. In the Navini Nebula, Admiral Sorovethi felt the ground beneath her flagship tremble with urgency. She stood on the bridge of the Keshartel, the Keshari Collective's flagship, eyes fixed on the holomap outlining Terranian fleets massing at the Sybaris cluster. She counted escorts, frigates, and dreadnoughts with the precision cultivated through centuries of warfare doctrine. Weakening supply lines at Lortha, reported Captain Nira. Their logistics convoy just dropped out of hyperspace 3 light minutes from the front. Sora's brow furrowed. Maintain satellite sweeps. I want eyes on every warp signature within 10 parsecs. She turned to her navigator. Plot a course for the Crystal Hammer facility. I want to oversee the fortification of the 4th orbital platform. If the Terranians break through there, we lose the entire sector. Her order lit the bridge into orchestrated motion. Data streams cascaded across screens. Pilot cyborgs adjusted thruster vectors. Tactical officers calibrated ion cannon batteries. And all the while, Sora felt the familiar pang of something she had long since resigned herself to. War's inexorable. Approach. Back on the moon, Leela received the routine status streams, but sensed an undercurrent of tension. In the cafeteria, crew members spoke in hushed tones. Did you hear about the Keshari blockade near Delta Vega? They're mobilizing more ships. Might be setting up for an incursion. Earth's borders are scratching the edge of the neutral zone. Who knows what they'll see? She joined them briefly, offering a reassuring smile. Nothing crosses our perimeter without being logged. If the situation changes, we'll catch it. She sipped her nutrient blend thin. slightly sweet, and returned to her station. At 3:17 UTC, the monitor's steady grid lines shimmered. A flicker, too subtle for most sensors to catch, traced a cold arc at the fringes of the heliosphere. The anomaly was so faint that it could have been cosmic noise starlight refracting through charged plasma. But Leela's instincts told her otherwise. She leaned in, heart accelerating. "Lieutenant May, up that quadrant's gain. Let's filter out the CME effects." Her voice was calm, but her pulse hammered in her ears. The grid overlay pulsed red. A ship undoubtedly had entered Earth's gravitational sphere, cloaked, but only partially. She saw the outline, elongated, sleek, built for speed rather than armor. No registry in any allied database, no shorter-than-light signature. Nothing. Plot its trajectory. She ordered. Also, cross-reference with all historical cloak breaches. On her private console, she pulled up the Black Vault, a repository of every clandestine craft ever sighted, from the first Turanian prototype intercept to the Keshery's stolen stealth frigate. This new silhouette didn't match any file. The main comm line crackled. "Dr. Hammond, mission control here. You're faint on the link. Report." Leela swallowed and replied. "Mission control. I'm receiving an unidentified object on the outer heliosheath. Cloaked vessel, no flight plan, no transponder code. Requesting immediate classification protocol Delta 3. Copy Delta 3, the voice echoed. "We're rerouting all deep space sensors. Inform Admiral Grant and Earth Command." Adrenaline flooded her system as she guided the remote telescopes to converge on the object's location. High-energy scanners swept for engine signatures, gravitometric sensors for mass distribution. Every alert she triggered rang louder than the last. Her observatory colleagues ceased chatter. Riveted to her screens, outside the loudspeaker, a intercom announcement echoed through the domed corridors. "All personnel to stations. Possible unauthorized contact. Stand by for further instructions." Even the cafeteria's patrons paused mid-bite, their trays forgotten. Leela's mental catalog of worst-case scenarios unfolded. A reconnaissance probe from some unknown warlord. Eyes probing for resource-rich systems, a prelude to an invasion fleet. Or worse, a distress beacon from a friendly power seeking safe harbor. But there was no plea for asylum, no diplomatic heraldry, only the silent question, "Why here?" Moments stretched. Then the monitors shuddered as a pulse of subspace radiation washed over the facility. Consoles blinked, lights dimmed, power rerouted to emergency reserves. A hush descended, a reminder that Earth's defenses were designed for asteroids and solar storms, not alien warships. "Emergency procedures engage," May's calm voice intoned. "Lockdown in T-90 seconds." "Dr. Hammond." The observatory dome's outer shutters began to close. Screens flashed alternative routes to maintain sensor integrity. Leela watched them, mind racing. She sent the initial contact protocol, a burst of encoded neutrino pings. Earth's universal greeting, no response. "Damn," Leela whispered. She gathered herself. "Let's not panic. We've got contingency plans. Notify the orbital fleet. They'll intercept." She tapped out the message. "Unauthorized contact detected. Potential threat. Secure the heavy orbital defenses." Outside, the Earth's Terminator line slid across continents, from the European sunrise touching the Alpine peaks to dawn breaking over the Pacific trenches. Humanity woke unawares that the peace they'd cherished to centuries of detachment from the endless galactic war was about to shatter. And in the silent vacuum just beyond Pluto's orbit, an alien craft glided closer. Its prow pointed toward Sol's brightest jewel. It came not as a plea for peace, nor a friendly ambassador. It came as a herald of choice. By which side of history would Earth stand when war's shadow finally fell upon its doorstep? Captain Miguel Santana stood on the bridge of the SSV Aurora, the hum of the fusion reactors a living heartbeat beneath his feet. The matte black hull of Earth's Pride, her most advanced deep space patrol vessel, reflected the distant pinpricks of starlight through the viewport. Around him, a dozen young officers worked at their stations with lethal precision, plotting intercept vectors, calibrating pulse laser banks, and monitoring life support cycles. Santana's jaw clenched as the Pacific Lunar Observatory's emergency Alert crackled through. Aurora, this is Mission Control. Cloaked vessel, unknown origin. Entering heliosphere on a direct course for the inner system. Estimated arrival at Pluto orbit in T42 minutes. Authorization to intercept is granted. Copy that. Mission Control. Santana's voice was calm, but his mind raced through every scenario he had drilled for. He turned to Lieutenant Aisha. Rana, his communications officer. Patch me to Admiral Grant, he ordered. The holoscreen flickered to life, displaying the President Commander's emissary. Admiral Yasmin Grant's hawk-sharp eyes narrowed behind translucent comm glasses. Captain, we've given you full engagement authority. We need a positive. ID hostile or friendly. If they broadcast a surrender code, stand down. Otherwise, defend. Understood. Rora out. Santana cut the feed and paced forward. All hands, stations to battle readiness. Helm, raise us to flank speed. Weapons. Calibrate the forward turrets. Science. Scrub for life signatures fast. Lieutenant Aaron Shen, at the sensors station, tapped furiously at his console. Captain, I'm picking up thermal spikes life readings consistent with humanoid physiology. Oxygen, nitrogen mix, trace xenon. They've got an atmosphere on board. Santana crossed his arms. Unusual for a recon probe. He strode to the viewport as the Aurora glided away from Neptune's blue glow, her impulse engines flaring. In pale azure, the Keshari and Turanians both used transponders and communique codes. These guys aren't in the damn nav logs. As the distance to the vessel closed, the crew beheld the stranger's true shape. It was slender and elongated, like a blade turned on its side. Scales of iridescent alloy shimmering even beneath its partial cloak. No visible weapon emplacements yet. Captain, said Lieutenant Rana, they're sending a signal. The bridge fell silent on the main holoscreen. Blocky glyphs scrolled in and out of the static, a rapid-fire series of pulses to fast, for human eyes to follow. Rana fed the data into the universal decoder. They're trying to speak. Preliminary. Translation shows no malicious code, just a question. Who are you? Santana allowed himself a measured breath. Open an audio channel, he ordered. Let's see if they have a voice to go with the code. Seconds later, the speakers crackled. A cold, resonant tone filled the bridge, deep, melodic, and utterly alien. Santana straightened. This is Captain Miguel Santana of the SSV Aurora, flagship of Earth's solar defense fleet. Identify yourself. A pause, then the vessel's voice. Your solar system is marked. You have trespassed into the theater of war. State your allegiance. Allegiance? Santana exchanged glances with his XO, Commander Lina Soto. He pressed on. Theater of war. We have no knowledge of any such conflict manifesting here. We're observers, not combatants. There was a faint, metallic shimmer on the screen as the alien vessel's cloak gave way for a heartbeat. You have chosen an action. That too is a choice. State your side. A murmur ran through the Aurora's crew. An action, that is a choice. Captain Santana felt the lie in his chest tighten. We choose peace, he replied. We will not align with any faction. Peace is a false shield, the voice rasped, without power. There's no peace. Your neutrality invites dishonor. Santana swallowed. Neutrality is our policy. If you have grievances, speak them. But we will not be coerced. A tremor ran through the Aurora as the alien ship pulsed energy and electromagnetic sweep. That threw sensor readings into chaos. Sparks hissed at one console. Chen's eyes widened. They're testing our shields, seeking weakness, knowing a direct attack could escalate beyond control. Santana made a decision. Lieutenant Rana, he said, prepare an EVA detachment. I want eyes inside that ship. If they're real life forms and not a trap, we need to show ourselves. Rana's voice held surprise. Sir, an EVA into an armed vessel could be suicide. Santana met her gaze. Better to die defending our honor than live shackled by fear. And if they're hostile, we'll learn. How? Within 10 minutes, the Aurora drifted alongside the intruder in the shadow of a wandering Cooper belt object. The starlight glinted off distant ice. Hatch seals engaged. Magnetic clamps grabbed the alien hull. Santana, clad in a sleek EVA suit, floated at the airlock alongside Lieutenant Chen and two Marine security officers. Through the porthole, they saw the alien vessel's exterior plating etched with circular runes that pulsed faint violet. No bolts or seams indicated modular construction. The panels seemed grown, not built. Chen placed her hand on the hull. This is bioengineered. It reacts to touch. Santana keyed his suit comm. Let's get inside. The airlock cycled. A hiss. A whoosh, and they stepped into a corridor lit by phosphorescent veins that pulsed along the walls. The floor shimmered underfoot, alive with nanoscopic movements. Split into teams, Santana ordered. Chen, you and I move forward. Marines, secure the rear. He activated the universal translator. The device hummed as it sampled ambient data. They advanced down the corridor, the walls curving gently inward. A lothrum vibrated in the hull like an immense heart beating. At the corridor's end, a tall figure emerged into the soft glow, a humanoid 2.5 meters tall. Lithe of frame, skin like polished obsidian streaked with violet lines. Eyes the color of newborn stars studied them with cold curiosity. Lieutenant Chen swallowed. Raising her hand in greeting, I am Lieutenant Aaron Chen of Earth, she said. Santana's translator echoed her words in the alien's native tongue. The creature inclined its head. I am Nrath of the Curvin, it replied, its voice a symphony of reverberating overtones. Why have you come aboard? Santana held his ground. We came seeking dialogue. We detected your presence in our system. We have no hostile intent. Nrath studied him, one luminescent eye narrowing. Intent is as fickle as the seas of Sivray. Actions speak beyond words. You have boarded my vessel without sanction. Do you trust us so? Chen's palms were slick inside her gloves. We trust you enough to risk ourselves for peace. Nrath's violet-tinted lips curved in something like amusement. Peace is for those who wield no weapons. Show me your weapons. Its command was absolute. Santana hesitated only a moment before signaling to his Marines. Through small ports in their suits, the security officers removed sidearms, sleek electromagnetic pistols holding them low. And to the side, the translator relayed each motion, each nuance. All weapons, Nrath repeated. If you bear arms, you bear fear. The Marines complied, holstering and then laying their weapons on the biotic floor. The violet lines pulsed faster as metal met living surface. A soft hiss filled the corridor as the floor absorbed the weapons in pools of runic light. Santana's heart pounded. Our weapons protect us. Without them, we are defenseless. But defenselessness invites trust, Nrath replied. Observe. It stepped back, raising a slender appendage. A panel slid open in the wall, revealing a small chamber. Inside lay what looked like a crystalline data sphere and a single vial of swirling, pale liquid, the sphere of Turan. Nrath said, a device that maps the will of the Alliance to wage war. We carry it for the highest bidder. It struck the sphere, and images bloomed in midair, worlds aflame, soldiers screaming in vacuums. Entire moons shattered. See, Nrath whispered. This is the currency of fear. We have come to offer you a place at the table or the battlefield. Align with the Keshari Collective, and we deliver your enemies into your hands. Stand with the Turanian Alliance, and we point our blades at your foes. Remain neutral, its head tilted, and we sell you to the highest bidder. Silence pressed on Santana like a physical weight. The sphere's images danced before his eyes, tempting with celestial power. He felt the enormity of the choice. Earth's first true contact was no diplomatic courtesy, but a bribe smeared in the ashes of war. Nrath's gaze bore into him, decision. Santana drew himself up. We choose our own destiny, he said firmly. We will not be slaves to fear or pawns of war. Nrath's posture relaxed. It gestured to the sphere. So be it. Then you will earn your freedom. The sphere's images winked out. The corridor doors behind Santana slid open, revealing the hatch that would return them to the Aurora. As the human crew crossed the threshold, Nrath's final words echoed. Prepare yourselves, Earth people. War's not a distant bonfire, it is a conflagration that devours all who stand too close. The airlock cycled shut, the magnetic clamps released. In the silent void, the Aurora drifted on. Her crew forever changed. They carried more than data. From the alien ship, they bore the weight of a choice neither Earth nor the galaxy had ever known. The news broke on every channel at once. Late afternoon sunlight gleamed off mirrored skyscrapers as holo billboards in New Beijing flickered red. Curvin fleet spotted at Mars orbit. In Paris, the Eiffel Tower's camera interrupted. A fashion livestream with live feeds of armored dreadnoughts arcing past Phobos. On remote farmsteads in Kansas, elderly farmers watched in stunned silence as 3 pulse laser salvos lit up the Martian sky. In the Situation Room beneath the United Nations Sky Hall, President Amina Grant sat at the head of a polished obsidian table. Her generals, admirals, and cabinet secretaries formed a semicircle around her, each face lit by the swirling tactical holo map that bathed them in blue-green glow. The sphere had shown them a choice. Now the Curvin had chosen for them. Admiral Patel, status, the president asked. Admiral Aner Patel stood, silent for a heartbeat as he gathered the data. His dark uniform was trimmed with 7 service stripes. His face was calm, betraying only the faintest crease of concern. Mum, we have confirmation of 15 Curvin capital ships and 30 escort frigates massing at Lagrange Point for between Mars and Deimos. They're deploying boarding tenders and ground strike platforms within hours. General Hiro Okafor, Secretary of Defense, leaned forward. Deploy civilian evacuation protocols on Phobos and Deimos. Move non-combatants to Mars surface. Issue martial law zones on critical infrastructure, the Olympusman's antenna array, the Mars orbital foundry, and all terraforming stations. President Grant nodded, voice measured. Implement. Admiral, I authorize full use of defensive firepower if our orbital platforms come under attack. But no first strikes. We defend our moons and assets only. Below the Situation Room, at the command deck of the Terra Defense Fleet, officer stations hummed with tense activity. All around, crews monitored fuel cell pressures, ammunition, stocks, and the distress beacons transmitted by research outposts on Deimos. Captain Santana's voice crackled over the intercom. Rora to all ships. Form defensive crescent between Phobos and Deimos. Shield matrix at maximum. Point defense arrays online. Marines, stand by for boarding interdiction. Let them come. In orbit above Deimos. The first silhouettes of the Curvin boarding tenders drifted free from the mother ships. Each tender was a squat, biomechanical pod that glowed with veins of violet light. From their belly hatches poured droves of armored Curvin shock troops, lithe warriors in obsidian carapaces, their rifles humming with xenon ion rounds. Lieutenant Nadia Chen, riding a mag sled along the surface, keyed her mic. Rora, this is Chen on Deimos Surface 8. They're landing. I count 8 tenders. At least 200 Curvin troops deploying. Santana's reply was immediate. Copy that. 8. Hold position. Marines are en route to intercept. Use non-lethal stun grenades first. Try to disrupt their formation. If they press, open plasma fire. A crimson flare blossomed on Deimos's horizon as the Curvin automated kinetic cannon opened fire on the relief corridor. The sand-dusted regolith shivered under the impact of hypervelocity slugs. Chen dove for cover, ordering her squad to return suppressive fire. Their stun grenades sailed true, erupting in violet arcs that sent Curvin warriors sprawling. But even as they hit the ground, the enemy regained their footing and advanced. Above, the Aurora unfolded like a butterfly's wings, deploying to squadrons of Valkyria interceptors. Each sleek fighter leapt from the mothership with a roar of plasma thrust, spinning into strafing runs. Their particle beam cannons ripped through the tender hulls, sending fragments spiraling into the void. Hold Deimos, Santana urged. Focus on the tenders, not the infantry. If we cripple their dropships, the rest won't make planetfall. Back in New Beijing, civilian panic flickered into resolve. Mass transit stations converted into evacuation hubs. Makeshift triage tents rose. In the parks, volunteers packed medical supplies bound for Mars, across the globe. For the first time in centuries, humanity felt the same wartime urgency that once gripped Earth during the first rift. In the sky above Amsterdam, an Osprey-class gunship roared overhead. Gun batteries on the Huygens dome lit up, targeting the Curvin frigates gliding through Mars's thin upper atmosphere. Surface-to-orbit lasers scorched crimson trails as rock salt shells, and electromagnetic rounds tore into enemy hulls. One frigate exploded in a blossoming starburst, its wreckage raining down on the Olympusman's radio ray. General Okafor's voice rumbled through the UN speakers. Mars command to all defense sectors, engaging full electromagnetic pulse protocols. Knock out their jump drive synchronizers. We leave them stranded. Understood, came the reply from Mars command, on the other side of the solar system. The Keshari Collective, observing the battle through long-range relays, paused their own maneuvers. They recognized the Curvin's signature clarion call for corporate mercenary outreach. Whichever side paid more would win this conflict. Within 5 hours, the Curvin Armada had sustained crippling losses. 12 tenders lay wrecked on Deimos's barren plains. 5 escorts had been disabled, their crews adrift in ad hoc rescue pods. Their capital ships hovered, battered, at lag-range point. But they were not yet defeated. Atop the battered command bridge of the Aurora, Captain Santana and Admiral Patel met for the first time face-to-face in the ship's conference module. The airlock chimed. Patel strode in, uniform marked with the insignia of Unified Earth Command. Captain, Patel began without preamble, your crew did well. Curvin losses are heavy, but they still hold the asteroid belt as a staging ground. They are regrouping for a counterstrike aimed at Deimos's polar facilities. We need a decisive blow. Santana met his gaze. I'll take Aurora and the Valkyries on a deep run into the belt. We punch through their screening frigates, hit their command tenders, and then exfil. He tapped the holo map, drawing a red line through the dense cluster of asteroid mining rigs now hollowed out as Curvin shields. They'll never expect a direct assault at those coordinates. Patel nodded. You have 1 reinforced squadron, plus the UN's experimental railgun frigate, the ISS Javelin. You'll have support, but the element of surprise is yours. Make it count. On Deimos, Lieutenant Chen rallied the survivors. Medical drones hovered overhead, patching wounds. Shelters lined with regolith walls gave refugees cover from radiated sparks. She looked up as Aurora's Valkyries streaked overhead, their plasma trails a promise of hope. Below the dust storms, civilians and Marines alike raised their fists in salute. For the first time in centuries, Earth's people witnessed the heart of war and felt the steel of their own courage dot as Santana's strike group disappeared into the belt. Admiral Patel watched the holo map collapse the vector, sealing the plan with a final nod. In the silent command hub, President Grant whispered into her comlink, "May our unity be stronger than their fire." And far beyond, in the dark crucible of the Curvin battle group, Nrath's datapad flickered with one incoming signal. Earth will fall. Prepare for retribution. The enemy at our gates had just begun their siege, and Earth's true trial by fire loomed on the horizon. Dawn's pale light crept across the Lagrange Point staging area, illuminating the battered hulls of the Aurora, the ISS Javelin, and 5 escort frigates. Captain Santana stood on Aurora's dorsal observation deck, arms folded as he surveyed the makeshift fleet arrayed before the asteroid-strewn void. Behind him, Admiral Patel's staff finalized orbital drop coordinates, their holographic display flickering with green and red markers. "Captain," Patel said, stepping beside him, "our intel indicates the Curvin are regrouping around the Chris Ring. They're desperate low on tenders and rations. They'll strike at our weakest link, Deimos's polar lattice. If they sever the power conduits there, the entire Martian defense grid goes dark." Santana nodded. He traced the Chris Ring's orbit on the viewport. "That's where we hit them hardest. Aurora and the Javelin punch through their screening frigates. Our Valkyries take out the railgun batteries. Once their shields collapse, we land Marines directly onto the command tenders, capture the Curvin War Council, and broadcast their surrender orders system-wide." Patel clasped his hands. "It's bold. It's human." He offered a wry smile. "Very well, Captain. You have full operational command. May fortune favor the brave." Phase 1, Brechet 613 GMT. The fleet slipped through the asteroid barrier. Aurora's forward thrusters flared as it launched a surprise salvo of high-yield plasma charges, carving a tunnel through 3 escort frigates before their cloaks could engage. The ISS Javelin followed, its hypervelocity rail guns hammering pre-charged tungsten slugs into the hulls of the remaining defenders. Sparks exploded into the void as Curvan shields collapsed under combined firepower. Shields down. Lieutenant Chen's voice crackled over the com she had joined the Javelin's boarding party. For the final assault, they're reeling. Santana's voice was firm. All squadrons, engage target clusters Alpha and Beta. Valkyries on me. From beneath Aurora's belly, 12 interceptors sprang forth, racing through the breach corridor toward the Chris Ring. Phase 2, Disruption Bellow. On the ice-crusted plains of Deimos's North Pole, Lieutenant Nadia Chen crouched behind a battered supply crate, her pulse rifle scanning for hostiles. The temperature gauges on her suit hovered near critical as wind-whipped regolith stung her visor. But she focused on the objective, secure the power conduit terminus. Before the Curvan could detonate their phosphoric charges, a shrill alarm in her earpiece signaled the arrival of the Valkyries. Through the swirling dust she saw them dive, plasma trails carving arcs in the sky. The interceptors unleashed a concentrated laser barrage on the faint shapes of Curvan ground guns. Within seconds, two batteries flickered and died in showers of molten alloy. Conduits are exposed, Chen reported. She pressed forward, sprinting along the lattice to reach the primary control node. Her calm blinked with urgency. Command, I have a clear shot at the main reactor. Do I hold pattern? Santana's reply was immediate. Wait for the boarding tenders to be neutralized. Chen gritted her teeth as distant booms rattled the surface. High above, the Valkyries were locked in dogfights with Curvan flyers sleek. Bioorganic fighters that dove and weaved like hunting raptors. Sparks flared as beam cannons met shimmering cloaks. Phase 3, boarding with an Aurora's hangar bay. Marines armed themselves for EVA transfer. Captains Santana and Patel strode past ranks of stoic soldiers, their breath pluming in the recycled air. Remember, Patagonia Aurora's Marine commander addressed the troops. We storm for the War Council, capture their leaders alive. Data core retrieval is secondary. Let's bring them in with minimum collateral. Santana placed a hand on Patagonia's shoulder. You've got the best, Lancet. Chen. You to lead the breach teams. Yes, sir. Patagonia saluted crisply. Moments later, Mariana surf suit sealed and mag anchored to the hull. The Marines spilled out into the void, clamping onto the warped metal of the Curvan command tender. Magnetic boots clicked as they advanced toward the airlock, shields up, rifles at the ready. Inside. The tender's interior was a maze of pulsating conduits and glowing runes. The Marines swept through corridors, stacking breaches on hatchways until they forced open the command chamber doors. There, amid the violet ambient glow, sat 3 Curvan nobility, tall, regal, and stunned. Lieutenant Chen kicked the door down, leveling her rifle. Hands where we can see them. The eldest Curvan dropped to one knee in active submission in their culture. We yield. She intoned in halting Galactic basic. You have proven yourselves worthy hunters. We designate Earth our new contracting partner. Patagonia cuffed the nobles with energy restraints. Contract signed. Earth Command will handle payment. Phase 4, broadcast with the Curvan War Council in custody. Captain Santana engaged the tender's holographic projector. Against the backdrop of shattered frigates and drifting boarding tenders, he issued the universal signal. To all Curvan vessels in this system, cease hostilities and stand down. Your War Council has surrendered on behalf of the fleet. Further, resistance will be met with decisive force across com channels. A chorus of clicks and static answered. Moments later, the pocket of space fell silent save for the soft hum of cooling fusion cores and the hiss of venting plasma. Epilogue. A new Dontuo days later, on the bridge of the SSV Aurora. A joint task force of humans, Keshari envoys, and repatriated Terranian refugees observed the last Curvan ship's departure through the L to jump gate. A soft cheer rippled through the human contingent as the vessel's drive shimmered and blinked away. President Grant's message broadcast. In every time zone, today we defended our home. Tomorrow we will shape our destiny. We choose peace, not because we fear war, but because we understand its price. Let this victory be a reminder when united, humanity can stand against any foe and forge its own path among the stars. Dr. Leela Hammond listened from the Pacific Lunar Observatory, tears in her eyes as she watched the solar wind carry the last tenders beyond Pluto's orbit. The quiet watch, so long upheld, had ended. In its place, a vigilant Earth gazed outward, no longer passive, but poised to protect the fragile jewel of blue in the cosmic sea. And as the first Martian sunrise kissed Deimos's horizon, every human soul on Earth understood they had earned their place in the galaxy at last.